I'm Lana. I probably spoke to you on the phone at some point. And I am one of the community educators with LOPA, and I am in the New Orleans region Covington office. So I am going to be presenting our new volunteer presentation to you tonight, but this is something that's going to hopefully continue, if not monthly, then, at least every other month, to be able to offer this to the people that can't make it, specifically to one night. But once you've seen this presentation, it'll likely be the same one moving forward. Now, if there is a different presentation or a different subject other than new volunteer education, then we will definitely let y'all know, because we will continue with our virtual Learn with LOPAs. Sometimes it may be just kind of a refresher course on new volunteer education, but sometimes it could be something else, like some of the other ones that we've had in the past. Okay, so again, my name is Lana, and we're just going to kind of give a basic overview of our different facts of what volunteering is about and how to get in contact with some potential volunteer opportunities in the future for you. Okay. So this is kind of an overview of LOPA. Our core purpose is making life happen. We were founded in 1988, actually April 1st of 1988. And we are a federally designated not-for-profit organ and tissue recovery agency for the state of Louisiana. So we actually manage the entire state of Louisiana as our donor service area. We also manage the Louisiana Donor Registry, which is essentially a database of individuals who have decided that in the event of their death, if they can, they would like to become an organ, tissue, and eye donor. There are currently over 2.5 million people registered in Louisiana, so that's a great number, but we still have a lot of work to do. We do provide free community education throughout the state when it comes to organ donation, so we are available all over the entire state to educate whoever would listen, pretty much, about organ, tissue, and eye donation, and really spread the word. We partner with professionals throughout the state, including different eye banks and all the hospitals in Louisiana, to make sure that we're accomplishing that goal of saving lives and enhancing lives. And we do know that education is key to this process, and that's why we wanted to be able to extend that out to you all, so that you can continue educating as well as volunteers. LOPA does have a governing board and an advisory board to guide the agency, and it helps us to meet our mission. So this is the map of our state. Our LOPA headquarters are located in Covington. Some of you may have seen our office. We've been there since September of 2018. In addition to all of our administrative offices being there on the second and third floors, there are 2 large conference rooms that we have there, classroom space for up to 200 participants. And there's also a recording studio where our agency produces its award-winning podcast, the Gifted Life Podcast. If you haven't already listened, you can do so. The map of the state shows all of our regional offices from around the state. This allows us to service any of our Louisiana hospitals in a very timely manner. So you can see we're all the way from Covington, over in Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Alexandria, Shreveport, and Monroe. And then we do have some staff that work out of, not necessarily an office space, but out of regional areas that are able to service people in those areas as well. I do want to start with this Connect to Purpose video. Some of you all may have seen it. It was floating around our social media, and it is actually a video of a pretty active volunteer of ours, Terry Walsh. She's a donor mom. So I'll let you watch this. It's about 8 minutes long.
Hey, Miss Terry. I wanted to share something special with you. As you know, because of you and Matt, I have been very passionate about organ donation. So much so that for the last year, I've been the chair of the Life Gift, North Texas's organ procurement agency, Committee for Texas Health Arlington Memorial. After a lot of work and some red tape, on April 15th, we initiated our first ever honor walk. I was interviewed by the hospital system's media team and was asked why donation is so special to me, and I was able to share your and Matt's story. It was one of my proudest moments in nursing. I just wanted you to know how you've touched me and how I am spreading the word here in Texas.
Matt was very funny, fun-loving, child and grew up to be the same way. He had many, many friends. He was just the sense of humor that, was what people remembered him by, I think. At the age of 21, he was involved in a very serious car accident, had major brain trauma, and unfortunately, he would not survive the injuries. I am a nurse, and I had spoken to both of my children about being organ donors when they got their driver's license. So he had the heart on his license, and I knew that that was his wishes. Through organ donation, Matt saved the lives of 3 people with donating his heart to a 65-year-old gentleman from Abbeville, Louisiana. He saved the life of a 12-year-old girl from Baton Rouge area and the life of a 47-year-old woman with his liver. He also donated corneas and skin and tissue. So, his gift was significant, and it's exactly what he wanted.
Matt and I met, I believe, the summer of 8th grade year, and we went to high school together. We were always in the same friend group. We were best buddies. We went to junior prom together. He was an amazing friend, always there for you, always the one joking around in classes, which was not necessarily good for me because I had trouble paying attention anyway. But he was just so much fun to be around. He was the life of every party.
When Matt was involved in the car accident, he was taken to North Oaks Hospital, and the ER physicians there and the nurses worked very diligently on him, and took very good care of him. They suggested that he need to be transported to a facility or to a doctor that could handle the neuro aspect of his injury. So they helicoptered him to West Jefferson Hospital, and the staff there continued the very difficult and very good care of him. He was very unstable for a long time, and they just worked on him very, very hard to save his life. I really had to advocate for Matt's wishes and say, I think maybe this is the end of trying, and I don't want the organs to be injured. I think, would you please just check to make sure that he is definitely a candidate for organ donation, which he did, and verified that, Matt's brain was no longer working. So he became an organ donor at that time, and called in LOPA, and they took over from there.
The Hero Walk is a walk from the ICU. The hospital staff lines the hallways as the patient is being rolled to the OR, and it's a way to pay respect and show our gratitude, showing their appreciation for organ donation other than this walk. It was wonderful. It was loved by the entire hospital. The morale of the hospital was very high that day and the day after. It's a wonderful experience, and we had a lot of people, including myself, in tears.
It was just so amazing that Matt was such an inspiration to her in wanting to work with organ donation. The Hero Walk is such a touching experience for the family, and it's very necessary. When Matt was in his accident in 2006, the hospitals were not doing honor walks, but because we had such a large family, we did our own, and it pretty well took up a whole wall. But to know that staff throughout the hospital and just all the doctors, nurses, is just so touching for the family. And you know, as I told Jesse, doing the work of organ donation is hard for donor families. And it's just so important that the family know that the hospital, that everybody is appreciative, because that's all we have left of our loved ones. So I have to stop.
Just so wonderful for the family. And it's important that the family knows how special the gift is, how great the gift is. And even in their time of grief, they can see how special and how huge of an impact they made on others, including the nurses, the doctors, other patients, other people.
It was very moving because April is such a difficult month for me. It's Matt's anniversary on April 2nd. His birthday is April the 17th. And then the month of April is Donate Life Month. So that's always been just a very emotional month for me. And when I received that letter, it was just so amazing, so touching, and of course brought many tears, because I thought, oh my God, Matt is still being remembered and people are working for the cause that, you know, that he felt so strongly about, to be able to donate his organs. So it was just very moving and just so inspirational, and I loved it.
We obviously want to continue with the honor walk with every donor that we have, but our next big project is getting a digital interactive wall of life. We want to bring more awareness to the gift that is organ donation.
It's very, very important that families discuss what their wishes are. Once they decide they want to become an organ donor, they should discuss it with family, because when an accident happens, or, you know, any kind of life-threatening event happens, the family needs to be able to remember what the wishes of the donor is, or their family members are. So the discussion is very, very important, and we definitely stress that in the work that we do in talking about organ donation. You can register to be an organ donor at LOPA.org.
So again, Miss Terry's been a volunteer with us for, gosh, a long time, over probably 10, nearly 15 years now. And so she enjoys sharing Matt's story. She enjoys the storytelling side of things, and she's obviously continued to make a big difference almost 15 years later after his passing. So that was just kind of an example of one of our volunteers doing what they love. We're going to go over some overall statistics when it comes to donation. As you can see, there's over 100,000 people nationally waiting on some type of life-saving organ transplant. Approximately about 2,000 of those are listed in Louisiana. So that doesn't seem like a real big number, 2,000 compared to 100,000. But if you look at the population of our state, it is a pretty big number. Unfortunately, 17 people a day will die waiting on a life-saving transplant, and about every 9 minutes, another person's name is added to that national waiting list. Just to give you some LOPA statistics, our numbers in 2020, we actually had 211 organ donors. We had 699 organs transplanted, 44 organs that were recovered for research, and 498 tissue donors. So we're doing pretty good. But again, as with everything, we still have a lot of work to do. We're going to go over a few different opportunities, the opportunities that we have for donation, which is organ, tissue, and eye donation. There's several ways that someone can change someone's life through donation, and that is through these three, again, organ, tissue, and eye donation. All of these gifts can be a huge impact on our community. And a lot of times we do get questions about donating your body to science. If you are interested in donating your body to science, that is not done through LOPA. Someone must pre-register with the medical school of their choice if they decide to do so. But as far as LOPA goes and the recovery goes, we do recover organ, tissue, and eye tissue from deceased donors. Our different types of organ donation, it can happen through brain death or through DCD, which is also known as donation after circulatory death. Only a very small percentage of all deaths will actually be able to be potential organ donors. In order for someone to become an organ donor, they must die in a hospital and be connected to a ventilator. And that allows their organs to still function because they're still receiving blood and oxygen. Brain death does occur when there's been some type of head trauma or a lack of oxygen to the brain. This could be, for example, a motor vehicle crash, a gunshot wound. And when the brain swells, there's nowhere else for it to go once it hits the skull. And so once the brain has gotten to a point where it can no longer go anywhere, it can no longer swell anymore, that can cause something called herniation, and that will ideally end in brain death. Brain death is not a coma. It's not something that someone is going to come back from. It is someone's legal and final time of death. And again, it only occurs in a very small percentage of patients. Our DCD donation after circulatory death, it's actually donors that are patients who cannot survive without some type of mechanical ventilation, and their family does decide to discontinue their medical care at that point. These patients generally have some type of very severe brain injury, but this is the family's choice to move forward with donation at this point. So all the organs that can be recovered for transplant are the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine. So with all of those organs, one healthy organ donor actually can save the lives of up to 8 different patients. That's pretty awesome. We're going to go through those organs now just to kind of give an overview. The heart, I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with these. The heart pumps blood through your body. It delivers oxygen and nutrients to the brain and all the other organs. Most reasons that people would need a heart transplant could be cardiomyopathy or some type of coronary artery disease or a birth defect of some sort. Your lungs are going to bring in oxygen and remove the carbon dioxide. And a lot of common reasons that people would need a lung transplant will be cystic fibrosis, COPD, and pulmonary hypertension are really the most common. So our liver is going to detoxify and purify blood. It stores vitamins and minerals, and it produces bile. The most common reasons that people need liver transplants could include hepatitis, cirrhosis of the liver, and diseases that affect the bile duct. And I do think it's important to point out, I think when people read cirrhosis of the liver, they automatically think alcohol, and that is not always necessarily the case. Cirrhosis is not all alcohol induced, and a lot of times cirrhosis is more common in idiopathic cirrhosis. So that's something that's important for people to realize when we're educating the community, because a lot of people automatically want to think of that alcohol-induced cirrhosis when really there is a very common need for liver transplants in idiopathic cirrhosis. Our pancreas. Produces insulin, and so a lot of times we hear about people that need pancreas transplants because the most common reason is type 1 diabetes. So if you've ever known someone that's needed a pancreas transplant or received a pancreas transplant, that's been pretty awesome for them to be able to recover from type 1 diabetes. And our kidneys filter the blood, remove waste, controls your body's fluid, and keeps everything balanced. It's actually the most needed organ, the kidney. I think that that's not as uncommon of a fact that most people do realize that, but I don't know if they realize just how much kidneys are needed. Just to kind of give you an overview, as of this month, there were a little over 2,000 people waiting for organs, or all organs in Louisiana. and 1,754 of them were waiting on kidneys. So that really gives you an idea of just how much kidneys are in need. Again, we talked about the pancreas affecting diabetic patients, but diabetes and high blood pressure are also very common reasons that most people would need a kidney transplant. And then lastly, we can recover the small intestines. The small intestines obviously digest food and play an important role in fighting off germs. And a major common reason that people would need intestinal transplants could include Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and short gut syndrome. And this is most common. Short gut syndrome is most common from pediatric patients. That's where you're going to see that most of the time. So that's all of our organs that we can recover for transplant. And as far as tissues go, there are plenty of tissues that we can recover that can enhance the lives of many. Actually, one tissue donor can actually heal or enhance the lives of up to 75 patients. So that's pretty awesome, just with all the different tissue grafts. So these are some of the tissues that can be recovered. The heart valves can be used to replace when they're either too stiff or too weak. This is very common with different birth defects or some type of heart valve disease. Most common type of birth defect is congenital heart defects, and a lot of times babies are born with these types of conditions. About 40,000 patients, babies a year, are born with some type of congenital heart defect, and so that's a big number. And they don't necessarily all need heart valve replacement, but a lot of them do. And as far as a human valve goes, unlike an artificial valve, a human valve allows the patient to lead a more normal and active life. It can be used where mechanical valves cannot be used, such as heart valve replacements in pregnant mothers. So a lot of times they can't use a mechanical valve in a pregnant mother, or they cannot. And that's when they would come to us for our donated heart valves. And then a lot of times children and adults both have defective valves, whether it's somebody that was born with it or an adult that's developed a heart valve disease. Huge need for that. Next, we can recover tendons and ligaments, and that can be used for different type of reconstructive surgeries, such as ACL or PCL tears. That's more common than I think we realize. A lot of times rotator cuff repairs can happen too. This is really commonly seen in like sports injuries, sports medicine type of injuries. And that could be anything from, I always tell students when I go talk to them in schools, a lot of times that could be anything from Little League baseball all the way to professional NFL football. There's really no rhyme or reason, depending on what the injury is. We can also recover bone, and that can be used in different procedures such as spinal surgeries. It can be used for bone cancer, to prevent an amputation possibly, in orthopedic reconstruction, and in dental implants as well. Everybody's so quiet, I still can't see y'all, so I don't even, y'all may have hung up already, I don't even know. We can recover veins, and that is the most common reason that somebody would use veins for transplant would be for cardiovascular surgeries to help restore blood flow. It can also be used in dialysis grafts, so I thought that was a pretty interesting piece of information. But huge need for vein as well, especially because we all know somebody that has been in some type of cardiovascular surgery and had to have some type of bypass surgery or whatever it may be. And a lot of times veins can help that patient. We can also recover skin grafts. Skin grafts can be used on burn victims. It can be used for breast cancer reconstruction, maybe babies that were born with a cleft lip or palate. And it can also be used for diabetes patients to help restore blood flow as well. And then lastly, we can recover corneas and eye tissue. One corneal donor can actually give the gift of sight to two different patients. Common reasons that someone would need a corneal transplant could be, scarring of the cornea or an injury, some type of genetic disease or some type of vision loss, glaucoma, or any other eye diseases. LOPA does have a partnership with eye banks across the state. We partner with Southern Eye Bank, with Baton Rouge Regional Eye Bank, and with Lions Eye Institute for Transplant and Research. And these are all local eye banks in Louisiana that facilitate the recovery of organs, but LOPA partners with them for that purpose. So that's all of our organ and tissue that we're able to recover for transplant. We like to say that LOPA is kind of the bridge between donors and recipients. We support our donor families through the donation consent process. We work on testing and matching donors with recipients, and we ensure safe recovery of organs and tissues for transplant as well. We also coordinate the transportation to transplant centers for those life-saving transplants. So we do work, we work with all the transplant centers in the state and out of the state as well. We are also very proud to say that at our Covington office, we also house our donor care center. It's the only one that we have in the state. I mentioned before the second and third floor being administrative and office space. And if you haven't been to our Covington office, this is a picture of the outside of it and some pictures of our donor care center. The first floor houses our donor care center. And this is an opportunity for us to bring in patients and transport them from the hospitals to actually do the recovery process at our donor care center. We have plenty of capabilities to do so. We house 3 patient care beds with ventilators and pumps so that we can manage that patient before the recovery. We have 3 ORs that are all capable of organ and tissue donation. We can do our labs there, chest x-rays, CT scans, echoes, lots of different opportunities to be able to manage and recover there. We can do our kidney pumping post-recovery before we actually transplant the kidneys. And there is actually a very interesting thing. We have video capability to do for live streaming during recovery for teaching, allocation of organs, et cetera. Something that we kind of were thrown into towards the beginning of COVID were, other transplant centers from out of state weren't necessarily coming to Louisiana because Louisiana was more of a hot spot. So we were able to do the recovery via live stream and be able to still offer those organs to be transplanted out of state. And so we were pretty proud to be able to be one of the first one. I believe we were the first ones to be able to do that as an OPO. So we're pretty proud of our donor care center.
I think still only, Lana.
I'm sorry?
Yes, first, and I think we're the only ones still.
Oh, only one still. So first and still only. So that's pretty awesome. We're leading in that for sure. So now we're going to talk about some of our advancements in transplantation. Transplant has come a long way from what we kind of probably used to know of it. We're actually now able to recover and transplant hepatitis C patients. So in the 90s, hep C positive organs were only offered to hep C positive recipients. And in 2017, our hep C positive organs were offered to both hep C and non-hep C positive recipients. And so that's made a really big difference as far as easing the shortage of organs. It's given more opportunity for more lives to be saved. And when a hepatitis C transplant is given to a non-hepatitis patient, that patient is then treated for hepatitis C, and they've had no problems with that. It's been able to be taken care of with the medicines that they're able to offer now. So that's pretty awesome. We actually just had, you may have seen a story floating around social media over the last week about a gentleman that received a liver last year, I believe it was. That was a pretty awesome news story. That's on some of our Facebook groups and pages. So you can always check out those types of stories that are given, shedding positive light on things like this. And then next, we have been, over the last few years, involved with the HIV Hope Act. So about 35,000 people are infected every year with HIV. In the past, laws have made it to where transplants couldn't happen from HIV patients, recovery and transplanted couldn't happen from HIV patients. But in November of 2013, President Obama signed the Hope Act into law, which permits HIV positive organs to be used for transplantation in HIV positive patients. So it's been able to offer plenty of other transplants to many other people that may not have been considered for it before. So that's pretty awesome. It's all part of our advancements and moving forward, and we're happy to see these numbers go up. At LOPA, we're pretty proud. Well, I'm not going to say pretty proud. We're very proud of how involved we are with our research studies. We are involved in a lot of different research projects. Some of you all may have seen some of our past Learn with LOPAs where we kind of honed in on some of our research projects. But some of the examples of research studies that we've done are up on the screen, but also we've had different things such as we've done the skin samples where they've done drug absorption, anti-aging skin treatments, psoriasis treatments, lots of different things, plus the ones that are listed here. Breast reconstruction due to mastectomy is always the one that's very, very intriguing to me as well as infertility. All of them, they're all so awesome. And then we have also, over the years, gotten more involved with our neonatal donation program. This little picture here is of one of our heroes, Austin Rose. Austin was diagnosed with anencephalic at 11 weeks gestation. So mom found this out when she was 11 weeks pregnant. Her parents made the decision to move forward with the pregnancy and enjoy that pregnancy as much as they can. She was born in January of 2016. Yeah, 2016, and weighed only 3 pounds and 12 ounces. So anencephaly is where the baby's brain doesn't fully form. And this gives us an opportunity. They know that the patient is going to pass away not long after birth, but the families have chosen to move forward with donation. And it gives an opportunity for transplant and research. So you can see all the organs that can be recovered for transplant and all the things that can be recovered for research as well. Heart valves, kidneys, liver cells, all that can be used for transplant. And then as far as research goes, that goes towards, our many projects of research that we're working on that we just talked about. So we're very proud of our family support program. Every one of our donor families begins with being supported at the hospital. Our family advocate team provides the family with precious memory making items and different things such as a heartbeat recording and maybe a hand mold or a hero walk like you saw Terry talk about, or always a flag raising ceremony if that's an opportunity for them as well. Our family services team provides care and support to the family as long as the family wants. So if they decide, they don't want to hear from us anymore, then that's up to them. But if they continue for the rest of their lives and they want to hear from LOPA, and they're always going to be part of the LOPA family. So usually how it kind of works is within a week, they receive a condolence card. They're mailed a flag or medallion that's mailed to them if they didn't receive that at the hospital. And then 10 to 15 days post-recovery, a phone call is made to the legal next of kin, whoever that may be, after the organs and tissues are recovered. They typically share the gender and age range of recipients. They offer to find support groups and counselors in the area and answer any questions that they may have. Again, that's pretty much the most that they'll be able to share with them as far as the recipients go is the gender and age range of the recipients. Then 3 months post-recovery, a phone call is given to reach out to them. Around the first year milestone, another phone call is made approximately about a week prior. And they're able to receive other things such as cards signed from the LOPA family. They get other opportunities such as volunteer, talk about our volunteer program or about our Quilt Square program. And then every year, they're contacted by our donor family services from there on out. So we have lots of different opportunities to be able to honor our donor families. This is a picture I wanted to share. It's really cool. This gentleman here is a double lung recipient. And he happened to meet this other volunteer at a past volunteer event who was a donor sister. Jessica in blue is her brother Alan was a donor hero. And you can read more about him if you decide to go to our heroes page on our website, and it'll kind of give you more of a backstory on Alan. But Frankie in the picture, they actually met that evening, and oddly enough, their tattoos were very similar. And it was something, their tattoos were both very similar, but also represented organ donation and kind of what donation meant to them. So they thought that was pretty cool that they had just met and really already had that connection as volunteers. So here's some of the facts that you may, run across when you're out in the community that you may need to clear up with people that may have questions about donation. Anyone can be a donor regardless of age, race, or medical history. LOPA will actually screen for suitability before offering donation to a family. Registering as a donor will not interfere with your medical care. We get this question a lot. If you're admitted to the hospital, the number one priority is for them to save your life. LOPA is completely separate and completely independent of the hospital team. So we're not involved with the patient care. Our role is family care and whatever it means when getting the family water or pastoral support or whatever it may be. So we don't even come into the picture until all efforts have been made to save that patient's life. An open casket funeral is possible. Any incisions that are made for organ tissue donation are reconstructed with prosthetics, and these incisions are covered by burial attire usually. We work with the families the best that we can on that. You cannot tell, and I don't know if anybody has ever viewed someone that was a donor, but you cannot tell when someone has an open casket if they have been an organ donor or tissue donor. And lastly, all major religions support organ, tissue, and eye donation as a final act of generosity towards others. We do encourage families to seek guidance from their religious leaders to kind of, regarding their take on organ donation, but we have not come across any religions that as a whole have been against organ donation. Organ donation is not going to cost anything to the donor's family for donation. It's an altruistic gift, and it's something that the family will not be billed for. As far as the waiting list goes, the severity of illness and the blood type determine eligibility when receiving an organ transplant. UNOS is the United Network for Organ Sharing, and they manage the actual waiting list in the United States. And so we go through UNOS, and that's how it's managed. And all of those things that I just mentioned in that second bullet point is actually the way that organs are allocated. It is possible to be a living kidney or a partial lung or a partial liver donor, but just to clarify, for those that don't know, we do not actually have anything to do with the living recovery from living donors. We support it. We think it's a great thing, but we actually only recover from deceased donors through LOPA. Any type of living donation would go through the actual transplant center. As far as registering to become a donor, it's pretty simple. When you register to become a donor, we want you to immediately share that decision with your family. It's very, very important to talk to your family, to have those discussions about donation. And that's what we really try to get out in the community a lot, is to let people know that registering is a great thing. But we do want you to have those family discussions so that your family is aware of that. So there's two ways to register. You could say yes at the Office of Motor Vehicles in Louisiana, or you can go to lopa.org and register through there as well. Very simple. As far as volunteering goes, there's lots of opportunities for volunteer engagement. Again, in this crazy world of COVID where, some things are more doable right now than others, since we're not 100% back in the community, although we were starting to try to. I'm not sure if it's going to happen just yet, but there's still a lot of opportunity to be able to spread the word about donation, even if we're not 100% in the community, which we have been doing for the past year and a half. So there's opportunities for things to do from home, such as writing letters or making videos at home to thank our hospital staff, our OMV staff. Some of our volunteers were involved in a project once in April of this year as a kind of a Donate Life month promo to, share their thoughts on donation and what Donate Life means to them. We had other opportunities for volunteers, I believe between Thanksgiving and Christmas last year, thanking our hospital staff. And it doesn't seem like a real big project. It doesn't seem like you would be doing a whole lot, but it really is something that brings a lot of, awareness to many people, and some of our staff or hospital staff that don't necessarily see our volunteers and everything that they're doing. It does make a really big difference. So we do have, coming up in September, we do have OMV Employee Appreciation Month. And so we would like to do something similar to our videos that we've done in the past, with kind of having a few volunteers say a short thank you to our OMV staff and compiling it all into one video and then sending it out to our OMV staff. So that's something that some of our volunteers like you can do at home. Another thing people can do is share their community or business contacts or different financial donor contacts that you think maybe somebody would want to be involved with our foundation, or even just kind of partnering with us as far as raising awareness goes. This picture here is actually one of our volunteers that has holding up a picture of her son that was a donor. And every year her employees at her office actually host a donor drive and different things like that. So that's a really big help for us to be able to offer those community contacts that we don't all have. And we'll happily walk you through it. But to be able to kind of give us those contacts that we don't have is a really big step. Story sharing. So kind of like what you saw in the video earlier, Miss Terry goes a lot of different places to share her and Matt's personal experience and her story. This picture here is actually a picture of Jessica, who was in our previous slide a little while ago, that had the tattoo on her arm. She is actually at a hospital right here sharing the story of her brother, Alan, who was a donor. So things like, hospital speaking engagements, whether it be for new nurse orientations or new employees or anybody that has some type of layout to where they have different speakers, we'd love to be able to bring in someone to share a personal experience, whether it's at schools, it could be at a church or health fair, different community events. Sometimes we reach out to volunteers to do media interviews, and it could be different multimedia opportunities like social media or our website videos, which is an example of what we showed you earlier with Miss Terry. That was a video that we made on our own and share it within our social media and put on our website and our YouTube page and things like that. And then, as I mentioned before, hospital development presentation. So if it's, a new employee, presentation at a hospital, or sometimes, in a less crazy pandemic of a world, we do sometimes ask our volunteers to make rounds in the hospital and just kind of talk to other employees. And, they like to put a face with what they're doing on their side of things. So some of the things that we want to kind of get across to you guys are some of our sensitive language. It's very easy to kind of jump into some terms that we've heard before, but we do want to make sure that we're saying the right things when we're out in the community. For example, we choose to use the term deceased donor versus cadaver, deceased donation versus cadaveric donation. Instead of saying life support, the term is actually mechanical support. And the one that we hear a lot that we are constantly having to correct people on is that we don't use the term harvest organs. The correct term is actually recovery of organs. So that is something that just kind of, it's a matter of getting used to. I know a lot of times people have just, said certain terminology for so long that they're just used to saying it. But it's just kind of something that we want people to be aware of when talking out in the community, because it does make a difference when sharing facts and things like that we want to make sure they're using the correct language with it all. We do have a LOPA Foundation. So that is a way that some volunteers choose to get involved, whether it's through, a small financial contribution, because that's what they can do as far as volunteering, or referring people, like I said before, other businesses, if they would like to get involved with our LOPA Foundation. Some people have created fundraisers on Facebook for their birthday. And so that's always an easy and fun way, because other people, your friends, can see who you support as organizations. But anybody wants any more information about that can go to our website, which is the LOPA Foundation website, which is lopafoundation.org. And then just to go back to that real quick, some of the things that the foundation works with are, I mentioned before, some of our family services projects, like the teddy bears, like the donor medallions. We do offer those types of things. We offer donate life flags to our families, and different memorial boxes or handprint molds that we can also provide for families. We are in the works for a donor memorial park. in our Covington location. And some of our research efforts definitely use some of the financial contributions from our LOPA Foundation. Also goes towards our community education and engagement as well. And you can talk to Miss Dory about that, because she's our LOPA Foundation manager, and she's the best to chat with. I think she was on the call earlier, but again, I can't see anybody, so I don't know if she left or not. We do encourage you to connect with LOPA however you can. There's a lot of different ways that you can connect through our social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You can go to our YouTube and look at all of our educational videos, including all of our different virtual Learn with LOPAs that we've done over the last year and a half or so. You can listen to our podcasts. We have different Facebook groups, regional Facebook groups. So it's very important that whatever region you're in, we encourage you to go and look for your regional Facebook group if you haven't already done so. And that kind of gives you a better idea of, events that may be going on in your specific region. It may not be important to you to hear about something happening in Baton Rouge if you live in Monroe, or vice versa. So being in those different Facebook groups are always another opportunity and way for you to be able to see other things that are going on. So it's very important for you to connect with us, and they can all connect through all of those things through our lopa.org website. And we encourage you to explore it in, any spare time that you have, explore our website and kind of learn about other things that we have on there as well. And then lastly, I just want to close out with a quote, which is from one of our donor moms who is actually also a LOPA Family Services Coordinator. This was a quote by Miss Libby Harrison. Some of you all may be familiar with Libby already. You may have spoken to her. She's been with LOPA for a very long time. And so she is also Justin's mom. Justin was a donor hero more than 15, definitely, I don't even know, it's probably over 20 years at this point. So she does enjoy talking about Justin. She said it gives her purpose and it gives her an opportunity to talk about Justin. I think that's important that we take away with today.